Welcome, Whispering Bee family. Tonight's story is a reminder that the deepest betrayals aren't from strangers, but from the one building a future right beside you. Eugene believed she had found something real, until one quiet morning uncovered a life that was never hers to begin with. This isn't just a story about heartbreak. It's about truth, control, and a kind of revenge that changes everything. Eugene used to believe that love, when it felt right, did not need to be questioned. She believed in instinct, in chemistry, in those moments where two souls simply recognize each other across a crowded room. She believed that real love announced itself clearly, honestly, without shadows. But what she learned, in the most devastating way possible, was that some people are so skilled at deception that they can make a lie feel like destiny. It started on a Tuesday evening in October, one of those rainy autumn nights when the world feels softer around the edges. Eugene had finished her shift at the marketing firm where she worked and decided to stop by her favorite bookstore cafe. It was a quiet place tucked between a vintage clothing shop and a florist, the kind of spot where people came to escape rather than to be seen. She was reaching for a worn copy of a poetry collection when another hand landed on the same book. She looked up and found herself staring into warm brown eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. "Great taste," he said, his voice low and friendly. "But please, you take it. I can find another copy." "Are you sure?" Eugene asked, already feeling the flutter of something unexpected in her chest. "I insist," he said, then extended his hand. "I am Oscar, by the way." "Eugene." His handshake was firm, but not aggressive, confident, but not presumptuous. Everything about him seemed calibrated perfectly, though she would not understand the significance of that word, calibrated, until much later. "Can I buy you a coffee?" Oscar asked, as an apology for almost stealing your book. Eugene laughed. "You were being polite. You do not need to apologize." "Then let me buy you coffee, because I would genuinely like to know what draws someone to melancholy poetry on a rainy Tuesday evening." There was something in the way he said it, interested but not intrusive, curious but respectful. She found herself saying yes before she had fully decided to. They sat in the corner booth for 3 hours. The coffee grew cold. The rain intensified against the windows, and Eugene found herself talking about things she rarely shared with anyone. Her childhood in a small town, her complicated relationship with her mother, her dreams of eventually writing something meaningful instead of just crafting marketing campaigns for products she did not care about. Oscar listened in a way that felt rare in the modern world. He did not check his phone. He did not interrupt. He asked questions that showed he was actually absorbing what she said. "I grew up believing I had to be practical," Eugene told him at one point. "My parents always said dreaming was fine as long as you had a backup plan. So I became the backup plan. And somewhere along the way, I forgot what the original dream even was." Oscar leaned forward slightly. "It is not too late, you know. People rewrite their stories all the time." "Do they?" Eugene asked. "Or do they just tell themselves that while staying exactly where they are?" "Fair point," Oscar said with a soft laugh. "But I think the fact that you are aware of it means you are already closer to changing it than you think." When they finally left the cafe, the rain had stopped. The streets were slick and reflective under the streetlights. "Can I see you again?" Oscar asked as they stood on the sidewalk. Eugene hesitated for only a moment. "Yes, I would like that." He smiled, and something about it made her feel like she had just made the best decision of her life. Over the next few weeks, Oscar became woven into the fabric of her daily existence. He would text her good morning before she even woke up. He remembered that she took her coffee with oat milk and a dash of cinnamon. He sent her photos of interesting things he encountered during his day. A street musician playing violin, a dog wearing a raincoat, a sunset that reminded him of a conversation they had about color. When they went on their first official date, he took her to a small Italian restaurant that did not have a sign. The kind of place you only knew about if you lived in the neighborhood or had been told about it by someone who cared. "How did you find this place?" Eugene asked as they settled into a table by the window. "I have a client who lives nearby," Oscar explained. He worked in consulting, he had told her, traveling frequently but based locally. He told me about it after I mentioned I was looking for somewhere special to take someone special. Eugene felt her cheeks warm. You told your client about me. I might have mentioned that I met someone who made me want to put more effort into things, Oscar said, reaching across the table to take her hand. Is that okay? That is more than okay, Eugene replied. As the months unfolded, Eugene found herself falling into a rhythm with Oscar that felt natural and right. He was attentive in ways her previous relationships had never been. He noticed when she had a bad day before she even said anything. He left little notes around her apartment when he stayed over, reminders that she was loved, that she was seen, that she mattered. He did travel often for work, sometimes for a few days, sometimes for a week. He would call her from hotel rooms in cities she had never been to: Chicago, Denver, Portland, Seattle. I hate being away from you, he would say, his voice tired but sincere. But this project will not last forever. Once it wraps up, I will have more time. I promise. Eugene believed him. Why would she not? Every time he returned, he brought small gifts: a scarf from a boutique he passed, a book he thought she would love, a pastry from a bakery he tried, evidence that even when they were apart, she was on his mind. 6 months in, Eugene realized she was in love with him. Deeply, completely, without reservation. It terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. They were lying in her bed on a Sunday morning, the kind of lazy morning where the world outside felt irrelevant. Sunlight filtered through the curtains. Oscar was tracing patterns on her shoulder with his fingertips. I need to tell you something, Eugene said, her heart suddenly pounding. Oscar turned to look at her, his expression open and gentle. What is it? I love you, she said, the words tumbling out before she could second-guess them. I know it has only been 6 months, and maybe that is too soon to say it, but I do. I love you. Oscar's face softened in a way that made her chest ache. Eugene, he said quietly, I have been waiting to hear you say that because I have been in love with you since our second date. I was just afraid of scaring you away. He kissed her then, slow and deep, and Eugene felt like she had finally found the thing she had been searching for without even knowing she was looking. The first year passed in a blur of happiness. Oscar integrated himself into her life seamlessly. He met her friends and charmed them effortlessly. He remembered their names, their partners, the details of conversations from months earlier. Her best friend Claire pulled her aside at a birthday party and said, If you do not marry this man, I will be personally offended on your behalf. Eugene laughed, but the thought had already begun taking root in her mind. Marriage, a future, forever. It was in the second year that Oscar suggested she meet his family. They were having dinner at her place, and he brought it up casually, almost as an afterthought. My mom has been asking about you, he said, twirling pasta on his fork. She wants to know when she gets to meet the woman who has stolen her son's heart. Eugene felt a flutter of nerves. She said that. She did, Oscar confirmed. My whole family, actually. They are dying to meet you. What do you think? Would you want to come to dinner at my parents' place next weekend? Meeting the family felt significant, like crossing a threshold into something more permanent. I would love that, Eugene said, but I am also terrified. Oscar reached across the table and squeezed her hand. They are going to adore you. How could they not? The following Saturday, they drove to his parents' house in the suburbs. It was a warm, inviting home with flower boxes in the windows and a wreath on the front door. Oscar's mother opened the door before they even knocked, her face bright with excitement. You must be Eugene, she said, pulling her into an immediate hug. I am Margaret. We are so happy you are here. Oscar's father, David, was quieter but equally warm. His sister, Clara, was hilarious and sharp, asking Eugene pointed questions about her work and her taste in music with genuine interest rather than judgment. His younger brother, Ben, was a college student home for the weekend, mostly interested in his phone, but occasionally chiming in with a sarcastic comment that made everyone laugh. They sat around the dining table for hours. The food was excellent. The conversation flowed easily. Eugene felt something she had not expected to feel so quickly. She felt like she belonged. As they were leaving, Margaret pulled her aside in the hallway. "I can see why Oscar loves you," she said softly. "You light up when you talk about the things you care about. That is rare. Do not ever lose that." Eugene hugged her, feeling a lump form in her throat. "Thank you. That means more than you know." On the drive home, Oscar reached over and laced his fingers through hers. "See, I told you they would love you." "Your family is wonderful," Eugene said. "I feel really lucky." "I am the lucky one," Oscar replied, bringing her hand to his lips and kissing her knuckles. By the third year, Eugene could not imagine her life without Oscar in it. He had become her constant, her safe place, the person she called first with good news and bad. When her grandmother passed away, he took time off work to be with her. He sat with her family at the funeral. He held her while she cried and did not try to fix it, just let her feel what she needed to feel. "I do not know what I would do without you," Eugene told him one night, her voice hoarse from crying. "You will never have to find out," Oscar said firmly. "I am not going anywhere." They celebrated their third anniversary at the beach. Oscar had planned the whole thing. A weekend getaway to a small coastal town neither of them had been to before. They spent the days walking along the shore, eating fresh seafood, and talking about everything and nothing. On the last evening, as the sun began to set, Oscar suggested they take one more walk on the beach. Eugene was tired but agreed. There was something about the way he was acting, a nervous energy that was unusual for him. They walked in silence for a while, the sound of the waves filling the space between them. Then Oscar stopped and turned to face her. "Eugene," he began, his voice slightly unsteady. "3 years ago, I walked into a bookstore on a rainy night and my life changed. I did not know it at the time, but reaching for that book, meeting you, it was the most important moment of my life." Eugene's breath caught. Her heart began to race. Oscar reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. He dropped to one knee on the sand, and Eugene felt tears spring to her eyes before he even opened it. "I do not want a life that does not have you in it," he said, his eyes locked on hers. "I want to wake up next to you for the rest of my days. I want to build a life with you, a home with you, a future with you. Eugene, will you marry me?" She was nodding before he finished the question. "Yes," she said, her voice breaking. "Yes, of course, yes." He slid the ring onto her finger and stood, pulling her into his arms. She was crying and laughing at the same time, her whole body shaking with the force of her emotion. "I love you so much," she whispered against his chest. "I love you too," he replied, "more than I thought it was possible to love anyone." The engagement period was a whirlwind. Eugene threw herself into wedding planning with an enthusiasm that surprised even her. She had never been one of those girls who dreamed about her wedding day, but now that it was real, now that it was happening, she found herself caring about details she never thought would matter. The venue, a historic mansion with gardens that bloomed year-round. The dress, simple, elegant with lace sleeves and a train that made her feel like she was floating. The flowers, peonies and garden roses in shades of blush and cream. The guest list, intimate but meaningful, people who actually mattered. Oscar was involved in all of it, which she appreciated. Some of her friends complained that their partners did not care about the wedding details, but Oscar had opinions. He wanted specific music for the ceremony. He had thoughts about the seating arrangements. He cared about the menu. They did argue sometimes, small disagreements that felt normal for two people merging their lives. He wanted a band. She wanted a DJ. He wanted an open bar. She wanted to keep costs reasonable. He wanted to invite more of his work colleagues. She felt like they barely knew those people. But they always worked it out. They compromised. They found middle ground. It felt healthy, like they were building something together rather than one person imposing their vision on the other. Claire helped her address invitations one evening, the two of them sitting on Eugene's living room floor with wine and calligraphy pens. "You seem really happy," Claire observed, carefully writing out another name. "I am," Eugene said, and she meant it. "I know everyone says this, but I really feel like I am marrying my best friend." "That is what it should feel like," Claire said. "I am so happy for you. You deserve this." 9 months into the engagement, with the wedding only 3 months away, Eugene felt like she was living in a dream. Everything was falling into place. The venue was booked. The dress had been altered perfectly. The photographer had sent preview shots from their engagement session that were so beautiful they made Eugene cry. Oscar had been busier than usual with work. Another big project, he explained. Lots of travel, late nights. He seemed stressed, and Eugene tried to be understanding. She brought him dinner when he worked late. She gave him space when he needed it. She reminded him that the wedding stress would be over soon, and then they could just enjoy being married. "I cannot wait," he told her one night as they lay in bed. "I cannot wait for you to be my wife." "Me too," Eugene said, curling into him. 3 months feels like forever. "It will go fast," Oscar assured her, "and then we will have the rest of our lives." The morning it all fell apart started like any other morning. Oscar had spent the night. He often did now, keeping clothes and toiletries at her place. It was easier than going back and forth, he said. Practical. Eugene woke up to the sound of the shower running. She stretched, feeling the pleasant ache of a good night's sleep, and reached for her phone to check her messages. She had a text from the caterer asking for confirmation on the final head count. She groaned softly. Another decision, another detail. She sat up, planning to grab her laptop and pull up the spreadsheet where she had been tracking everything, when she heard it. A vibration, low and insistent. She glanced at the nightstand. Oscar's phone was there, plugged into the charger, screen dark and silent. The vibration came again. From his bag. The black leather messenger bag he took everywhere, the one that held his laptop and work documents and whatever else he needed during his travels. Eugene felt something shift in her chest, a subtle wrongness, an instinct she could not name. She told herself she was being paranoid, told herself it was probably just a work phone. Lots of people had work phones. But the feeling did not go away. It grew heavier, more insistent, pressing against her ribs like a warning. She got out of bed slowly, her heart beginning to pound in a way that felt disproportionate to what she was doing. It was just a phone, just a bag. There was probably a completely reasonable explanation. She walked over to where the bag sat on the chair by the window. The shower was still running. Steam was creeping out from under the bathroom door. She had time. Eugene unzipped the bag slowly, her hands steadier than she felt. Inside, nestled between a laptop and a folder of papers, were 2 phones, not old ones, not outdated models waiting to be recycled. 2 current, active phones. One of them lit up as she stared at it. A message notification flashed across the lock screen. The preview read, "I cannot wait for our weekend again." Eugene's stomach dropped. She picked up the phone with trembling fingers. There was no passcode. It opened immediately to the message thread. The contact name at the top, "My love." She scrolled up slowly, her breath coming in short, shallow gasps. The messages went back 2 years, 2 entire years, photos of dinners, screenshots of flight confirmations, voice messages she did not have the courage to play, and pictures, so many pictures. A woman, dark hair, beautiful smile. In some photos she was alone. In others she was with Oscar, his arm around her waist, his lips on her forehead, his hand holding hers. Eugene set that phone down carefully, as if it might explode, and picked up the second one. Her hands were shaking visibly now, her whole body beginning to tremble. This phone also had no passcode. As if Oscar had been so confident in his deception that he had not even bothered with basic security. The lock screen photo was a woman, different from the first, blonde, different smile, but the same expression of love and trust that Eugene had probably worn 1,000 times when looking at Oscar. She opened the messages, the contact name, "My wife." The thread went back 10 years, a decade, photos of a wedding, anniversary celebrations, a house Eugene had never seen, a life that existed in complete parallel to hers. The woman's name appeared in the messages, Marissa. Eugene read through them in a daze, her brain struggling to process what she was seeing. Messages about grocery shopping, about bills, about the kids' school schedules, about missing each other when Oscar was away on business trips. Business trips. The same business trips he told Eugene about. The same absences she had accepted without question because she trusted him. She scrolled further, found messages about their 10th wedding anniversary. It had been 4 months ago, right around the time Oscar had surprised Eugene with a weekend trip to wine country. She had thought he was being romantic. Now she understood he had been making up for missing his actual anniversary with his actual wife. And in the most recent photos, children, 2 of them, a boy who looked about 7, a girl who could not have been more than 4. The shower turned off. Eugene heard the shower door open, the sound of Oscar humming softly as he dried off. She should have confronted him right then, should have burst into the bathroom with both phones in hand and demanded answers. But something stopped her, some instinct deeper than anger or hurt. She quickly took photos of everything on both phones. Messages, photos of the women, photos of the children, contact information. Everything she could capture in the 90 seconds before Oscar would emerge. Then she put both phones back in the bag exactly as she had found them, zipped it closed, walked back to the bed, picked up her laptop and pretended to be scrolling through it casually. When Oscar came out of the bathroom, towel wrapped around his waist and hair dripping, he smiled at her like nothing in the world had changed. "Good morning, beautiful," he said, leaning down to kiss her forehead. Eugene looked up at him and smiled back. "Good morning." "What do you want to do for breakfast?" he asked, walking to the dresser where he kept spare clothes. "I was thinking we could try that new brunch place everyone has been talking about." "That sounds nice," Eugene said, her voice steady and calm despite the storm raging inside her. Oscar got dressed, still talking about brunch, about his plans for the day, about a work call he had later. Eugene responded at all the right moments, laughed when appropriate, touched his arm when he sat next to her on the bed. She was performing, playing a role, and she was good at it, better than she had known. Because she had realized something crucial in those 90 seconds while taking screenshots. Confronting Oscar immediately would give him time to spin a story, to manipulate the situation, to control the narrative. But if she waited, if she gathered information, if she brought the other women into this before Oscar even knew the walls were closing in, then he would have no escape. Over the next 3 days, Eugene became someone new, someone calculating, someone patient, someone who understood that revenge served cold was far more devastating than rage served hot. She was warmer with Oscar than she had been in weeks. She initiated more physical affection. She laughed at his jokes. She asked about his day with genuine seeming interest. She even brought up wedding details without stress, making him feel like everything was perfect. Oscar relaxed into it completely. He stopped being quite so careful with his phones, stopped checking them obsessively when she was around. He thought he had her exactly where he wanted her, trusting, devoted, blind. Meanwhile, Eugene worked. She went through every screenshot. She found social media profiles. She learned everything she could about Marissa and about the second woman, whose name was Talia. Marissa was a nurse, married to Oscar for 10 years, 2 children, lived in a suburb 40 minutes away. Her social media was full of family photos, many of which included Oscar. He was not hiding this life. He was living it fully. He went to the kids' soccer games. He attended school functions. He was, by all appearances, a dedicated husband and father. Talia was a graphic designer. She had been with Oscar for 2 years, the same amount of time as Eugene had been engaged to him. She lived downtown. No children. Her Instagram showed a glamorous life, dinners at expensive restaurants, weekend trips to wine country and mountain resorts, all with Oscar. 3 women, 3 complete lives, 3 separate realities. And Oscar was the axis around which they all spun, none of them knowing the others existed. Eugene felt sick when she fully understood the scope of it. This was not a man who had made a mistake. This was not someone who had fallen in love with 3 people and did not know how to choose. This was a man who had deliberately constructed multiple lives and maintained them with surgical precision for years. She contacted Marissa first. She agonized over how to do it. Finally, she sent a message through Facebook. Simple, direct. My name is Eugene. I think we need to talk about Oscar. She included one photo, Oscar and her at their engagement party, his arm around her waist, both of them smiling. The response took 6 hours. When it came, it was one word: what? Eugene replied with more photos, screenshots of messages, the ring on her finger, the wedding venue information. Then she waited. Her phone rang 30 minutes later. Unknown number, she answered. Who are you? The woman's voice was shaking, angry, terrified. My name is Eugene, she said quietly. I am engaged to Oscar, or at least I thought I was. The wedding is supposed to be in 2 months. That is impossible, Marissa said. Oscar is my husband. We have been married for 10 years. We have 2 children. I know, Eugene said. I saw the photos. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Then, how did you find me? Eugene explained about the phones, about the messages, about discovering everything by accident. Marissa started crying, not loudly, just quiet, broken sobs that made Eugene's chest ache despite never having met this woman. I need to see you, Marissa said finally. I need to see proof. I cannot just believe this over the phone. They met the next day at a coffee shop halfway between their locations. Marissa walked in looking exhausted. Her eyes were red. She had clearly not slept. Eugene had brought printouts of everything. Photos, messages, documentation of the entire relationship. They sat across from each other and laid it all out on the table between them. 2 lives, 2 versions of Oscar, 2 women who had believed they knew him. There is another one, Eugene said quietly. Her name is Talia. She has been with him for 2 years. I have not contacted her yet. Marissa stared at her. How many? I do not know, Eugene admitted. There are only 2 phones I found, but who knows if there are others. Marissa pressed her palms against her eyes. 10 years, she whispered. I gave him 10 years. We have children together. I thought we were building a life. I am so sorry, Eugene said, and she meant it. I know that does not help, but I am sorry. What are you going to do? Marissa asked. I do not know yet, Eugene said, but I know I am not going to let him just walk away from this like it never happened. Marissa looked at her for a long moment. I want to help. Whatever you are planning, I want to be part of it. Eugene reached across the table and took her hand. Okay. They contacted Talia together. Same approach. Same reveal, same devastation. Talia was harder to convince at first. She was younger than both of them, more inclined to believe that maybe there was some explanation. But when presented with the evidence, when shown the wedding photos and the engagement photos and the messages spanning years, she broke. The 3 of them met. 3 women who should never have known each other. 3 women whose lives had been running on parallel tracks, orchestrated by a man who treated relationships like a project to be managed. What do you want to do? Talia asked Eugene. You are the one getting married. You have the most public thing happening. Eugene had been thinking about this for days, turning it over in her mind, considering options, weighing consequences. I want him to lose everything, she said finally. I want everyone who matters to him to see exactly what he is, and I want to do it in a way he cannot explain away or minimize. The wedding, Marissa said slowly, understanding dawning on her face. Eugene nodded. The wedding. They planned it carefully. Eugene continued to act normal with Oscar, sweet, excited, in love. She confirmed details with vendors. She finalized the timeline. She made sure everything was perfect. The day before the wedding, Oscar was nervous. Not about the marriage, but about the logistics. He kept checking his schedule, making sure he knew where he needed to be and when. Are you okay? Eugene asked him that evening as they had dinner at her place. Just want everything to go smoothly tomorrow, he said, reaching across the table to take her hand. I want it to be perfect for you. It will be, Eugene assured him. Everything is going to be exactly as it should be. The morning of the wedding, Eugene woke up feeling strangely calm. No nerves, no second thoughts, just a clear, cold certainty about what was about to happen. Her bridesmaids came over to help her get ready. They were laughing, drinking champagne, talking about how beautiful the day was going to be. Eugene played along. Let them do her hair and makeup. Let them zip her into the dress. When she looked at herself in the mirror, she barely recognized the woman looking back. She looked like a bride. She looked happy. She looked exactly how she was supposed to look. Claire hugged her tightly. "You are stunning," she said. "Oscar is going to lose his mind when he sees you." "I hope so," Eugene said softly. The venue was perfect. The weather had cooperated. Guests were arriving and taking their seats. The flowers looked even better than she had imagined. The string quartet was playing softly. Everything was exactly as planned. Oscar stood at the altar in his tuxedo, greeting guests as they walked past, shaking hands and smiling. His parents sat in the front row. His siblings were in the wedding party. Eugene's family filled the other side of the aisle. Friends from work, old college roommates, people who had known them as a couple and believed in them. The ceremony was about to start. The music shifted. The wedding party began their walk down the aisle. Eugene watched from the back, hidden behind the doors, seeing it all through the crack. Oscar was smiling, confident, excited. He had no idea. Then it was her turn. The doors opened. The music swelled, and Eugene began walking down the aisle. Every eye turned to her. People gasped softly. Her mother started crying immediately. Oscar's face transformed when he saw her. Pride, love, relief. He looked at her like she was the only person in the world. She walked slowly, holding her bouquet, keeping her expression serene. When she reached him, he took her hands. His palms were slightly sweaty. He was nervous, happy, completely unaware. The officiant began speaking. The traditional words, "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today, the sanctity of marriage." Eugene waited, watching Oscar, watching his family, watching everyone who had come to celebrate a love story that had never been real. Then, at the moment when the officiant asked if anyone objected, Eugene turned slightly, just enough to see the screen that had been set up behind them. It had been there all along, meant to display photos during the reception. No one had questioned it. She pulled a small remote from her bouquet. Oscar did not notice. He was looking at the officiant, waiting for the next part of the ceremony. Eugene pressed the button. The screen flickered to life. At first, it showed a photo of her and Oscar from their engagement party. People smiled, thinking it was a sweet touch. Then it changed. A photo of Marissa and Oscar, at their wedding. 10 years ago, kissing at the altar, her in a white dress, him in a tuxedo. Confused murmurs rippled through the crowd. Oscar turned, following everyone's gaze. His face went pale. "Eugene, what is this?" he said quietly, his voice tight. She did not answer. The photos continued. Wedding photos, anniversary photos, photos of Marissa pregnant, photos of Oscar holding a newborn, then a toddler, then 2 children, family photos, Christmas cards, birthday parties. The murmurs grew louder. Oscar's mother stood up. "Oscar, what is happening?" Another photo, Talia this time, kissing Oscar at a restaurant, hiking together, on vacation, at concerts, laughing, in love, the dates visible on each photo, overlapping with everything else. Then the messages, screenshots blown up huge, conversations with Marissa about picking up their son from school, conversations with Talia about anniversary plans, conversations with Eugene about wedding details, all time-stamped, all happening simultaneously. The room erupted, not in shouts, in something worse, a collective intake of breath, a communal shock that felt like the air had been sucked out of the space. Oscar grabbed Eugene's arm. Turn it off right now." She pulled away from him. "No." The final photos appeared. Marissa standing with her 2 children, Talia standing alone, Eugene standing in her wedding dress. 3 women, 1 man, 3 lives. Then words appeared on the screen. "You do not get to rewrite reality anymore." Oscar was shaking. His face had gone from pale to red. "You had no right. You had no right to do this." "I had every right," Eugene said, her voice calm and clear. "You built this. I am just showing people what you built. The doors at the back of the venue opened. Marissa walked in, holding her children's hands. The little boy looked confused. The little girl was clutching her mother's leg. They walked down the aisle slowly. Oscar's eyes went wide. Marissa, he breathed. What are you doing here? I am showing our children who their father really is, Marissa said, her voice shaking but steady. I am done protecting you. The room was completely silent now. Every single person frozen, watching this unfold like a car crash they could not look away from. Talia appeared in the doorway next. She did not walk down the aisle, just stood there, arms crossed, tears streaming down her face. I loved you, she called out. I actually loved you. Oscar looked between all three women, his family, the guests, back to Eugene. His mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. His mother pushed past people to reach him. Oscar, tell me this is not real. Tell me there is some explanation. He looked at her helplessly. Mom, I can explain. This is not what it looks like. Then what is it? His father demanded, standing now too, because it looks like you have been lying to everyone who ever cared about you. Oscar turned back to Eugene. His expression shifted. The charm dropped away. Something colder and harder appeared underneath. You are going to regret this, he said quietly. You have humiliated me in front of everyone I know. You humiliated yourself, Eugene replied. I just made sure everyone could see it. She took off the engagement ring and set it carefully on the altar. Then she picked up her dress slightly and walked down the aisle, not running, walking, slowly, with her head up. Marissa and Talia fell into step beside her. Three women walking out together, while Oscar stood alone at an altar, surrounded by the ruins of his carefully constructed lies. The aftermath was brutal, for Oscar, not for Eugene. Marissa filed for divorce within the week. She got primary custody of the children. The court was not sympathetic to a man who had maintained multiple families. She got the house. She got child support. She got to keep her dignity because she was the one who had been wronged. Talia disappeared from his life completely, blocked him on everything, moved to a different part of the city, started over. Oscar's family cut him off. His mother told him she did not recognize the person he had become. His father said he was ashamed. His siblings stopped answering his calls. At work, the story spread. He had always been so careful to keep his personal life separate, but this was too big to contain. His colleagues looked at him differently. His clients started requesting different consultants. Within 3 months, he had been quietly pushed out. The man who had once juggled 3 complete lives could not even maintain one. Eugene did not stay to watch him fall. She did not need to. She moved to a new city 3 hours away. A fresh start. She sold the wedding dress, returned the gifts that had already arrived, closed the door on that entire chapter of her life. Healing was not immediate. There were days when she cried for hours, days when she felt stupid for not seeing it sooner, days when she questioned everything about herself and her judgment. But slowly, over months and then years, life softened again. She made new friends. She threw herself into her work and eventually started doing some freelance writing on the side. Small things at first, personal essays, then bigger pieces. She found her voice again, the one she had lost somewhere along the way. She went to therapy, worked through the trust issues, learned to recognize red flags, learned that being cautious was not the same as being closed off. 2 years after the wedding that never happened, Eugene met someone new. His name was Moses. He was a teacher, quiet, kind, a little awkward in an endearing way. Their first date was at a coffee shop, not the same one where she had met Oscar. She had never gone back there. Moses was nervous. He spilled his coffee slightly, apologized 3 times, made self-deprecating jokes about not being good at first dates. Eugene found herself relaxing in a way she had not expected. There was no performance with Moses, no charm offensive, just a genuine person trying to make a genuine connection. Can I be honest with you? Eugene said about an hour into their date. Please, Moses replied. I have some baggage, a lot of it, from my last relationship, and I am still working through it. So if that is too much, I understand." Moses looked at her thoughtfully. "I think everyone has baggage by the time they reach our age. The question is not whether you have it. It is whether you are dealing with it honestly. And it sounds like you are." "I am trying to," Eugene said. "Then that is enough for me," Moses said simply. They took things slowly, much slower than Eugene had with Oscar. There was no whirlwind romance, no grand gestures, just steady, consistent presence. Moses called when he said he would call. He showed up when he said he would show up. He was exactly who he presented himself to be. The first time Eugene met his family, she was terrified. But his parents were normal people who asked normal questions and did not seem to be performing or hiding anything. His sister was funny and real and told embarrassing stories about Moses as a kid that made him blush. It felt different, it felt safe, it felt honest. Eugene did not rush into anything. They dated for a year before she even let herself think the word love. And when he finally did say it, they were sitting in Moses's apartment one evening while cooking dinner together. It felt different than it had before. "I love you," he said, and there was no drama to it. No grand moment, just truth. Eugene turned from the stove and smiled. "I love you too." They got engaged eventually. A quiet proposal in his parents' backyard during a family barbecue. Nothing elaborate. Just Moses getting down on one knee and asking if she would spend her life with him. She said yes. And this time, she meant it in a way that felt completely different. This time, she knew exactly who she was saying yes to. The wedding was small, just close family and friends. No elaborate venue, no dramatic moments. Just two people who had found each other and decided to build something real together. As Eugene stood at the altar, looking at Moses, she thought briefly about Oscar, about the wedding that never happened, about the life she had almost stepped into without knowing it was a lie. And she felt grateful, not for the pain, but for the fact that she had found out in time, that she had walked away, that she had chosen herself when it mattered most. Because Eugene had not just lost a lie. She had walked away before it could become her entire life. And that was her real victory. Not revenge, not exposure, but choosing herself, choosing truth, choosing the possibility of real love over the comfort of a beautiful lie. And in the end, that had made all the difference.